Hey everyone, welcome back to Coming Clean. I'm your host, Kylie Lewis, and this is episode number 66. Today, my guest is Denise Nichols. Thank you for being here, Denise.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm ecstatic about it.
Awesome.
And about finding you and learning about happy, healthy women. It's great. It's a resource we need.
Awesome. Well, I want to dive into so many things with you, but first, I kind of want to tell the audience who you are, what you're about, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And not in a negative way. It's a beautiful thing. You're an occupational therapist. You are certified in integrative yoga therapy.
Nice.
Is that correct?
Yes, that was perfect.
You're also certified in massage therapy and pelvic floor therapy. Mm-hmm. You're a mother, you're a wife, and now you're an author.
Yes,
of this beautiful book.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And an owner of a business.
Owner of a business, right, which I forgot to even say, which is a whole thing in and of itself.
Right. But it's connected to the book and why I wrote the book, so yeah.
Right.
The book is basically, yes, it's all connected.
Right.
Yep.
Which is a beautiful thing, because if you're going to be busy and you're going to be pulled in all these directions, they obviously need to be in alignment, otherwise you're going to go crazy.
Right, and it's got to be about something that you love and are passionate about, and I feel so blessed that I'm on the path that I'm on and that I have, so yes, I think you dive into all these different things because you're passionate about them and you have seen them work for people, so you want to help more people.
Yeah.
And in turn, it helps you.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So to give myself, although I read your book because you very generously gifted it to me, so I read it over the weekend so I could prepare for this. And I want to dive into it, but first, can you just give us like a somewhat brief overview of what you've gone through in your life to bring you to where and who you are today?
Okay. Yes. Brief. So let me think where to start. I guess I was born out east in Maryland, and my family is all out there. And so the majority of my life was spent out there. But I also, my dad was a college president, and so we moved around the country for that. So traveling got in my blood there. And I think that was kind of my starting of understanding that we're all the same. I remember being in Vermont one time, when I moved there. That was my first job as an OT out of school in Connecticut, and she was standing in front of this huge picture window with the mountains behind her, and she was like, "Why would you move here?" And if you never move anywhere else, you don't appreciate things, I think, as much. If you've never, I don't know. So I think that started my love for learning and exploring. And then my mother is a special ed preschool teacher, retired now. Amazing, right? That anybody could do that for a living. Yeah. But she really pushed me in high school to look into PT and OT because she saw that it was going to be it's a recession-proof job. It really has been. So she knew. She's very smart. And so thankfully, she encouraged me to go explore. And so I observed with both. And occupational therapy is, we have to do a mental health internship as well as a physical disability, whereas physical therapy is more focused on the physical disability. We understood and are focused on the integration of the mind-body connection. And so that just felt right to me. So I dived into that. But because my mom was a special ed preschool teacher, I started with pediatrics in Vermont, and I loved certain aspects of it, but it just didn't feel right to me. So long story short, I ended up here because my parents were here when I decided to just go and explore and figure out what I wanted to become as an OT. And I landed here at a place that did both pediatric and adult, so they were orthopedic rehab. So pediatric rehab is working with autistic children or really any cerebral palsy, different children with disabilities. That's what I was doing mainly. And then I started to train in more of the adult side of orthopedic rehab, so like back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, those kinds of things. And I thankfully was supported by the owners there to start to explore a little bit more about how to integrate things on the mind-body side of things. So I guess I felt like that was being called in my role at that point, and they totally supported me in my. I think I became a massage therapist first, and then a yoga therapist after that. And that just opened up a whole world. So I would be in my little room with they would call it the feel-good therapy, with my music, while they would be out in the gym doing, the more, what you would think is more traditional therapy. I just started to go that route. And then I met a wonderful woman named Lynn Batalden, who owns Creative Therapeutics in DeKalb. And that was the whole body approach. It was really what I was looking to learn more about, because I was young then, my 20s. And so that is where I really got the love for the integration of the mind-body awareness and really how to do it. Was mentored by just amazing therapists, but the commute was tough. And then, so then I got married, and that commute was tough in the winter after a couple of years. So, and then my husband lost his job, the whole recession thing happened, and so I dabbled everywhere else in the, inpatient and outpatient, different things like that in hospital systems, and that helped me learn what my love and my passion is, which is outpatient therapy, which is something is affecting your life and your function. Your quality of life is not the same. You come in, we figure it out. Ideally, I believe that our job in the medical profession is to give you the tools that you need to maintain your health, to improve your quality of life, to know what tools to use and how to use them. And so then eventually I ended up opening my own practice, because there was just nothing like it in Rockford. So I really wanted to emulate Creative Therapeutics, and I'm sure then it's kind of morphed into my own thing based on me as a person. And so the book is really, the 10 principles are what I find myself saying, what I have found myself saying for the past, I guess it's been 18 years now that I've really been in the whole body health, small private outpatient clinics where it's very one-on-one, and it's a nice way to really explore everything. As far as my philosophy has always been, you can't change anything you're not aware of, and education is the key to that. And the key word is awareness, right? And that's what the book talks about, is how to improve your awareness. So if we all would just stop and just checked in, what's my body doing right now? What is your body doing right now? What do you feel right now in your body? What's it telling you? Go ahead and answer me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because I have this in my notes, but I thought, when we bring this up in the conversation, well, right now, because we're recording and we have a camera on us and we have listeners and audience, I'm trying my best to be really aware of my breath, because I'm slightly nervous, right? So my shoulders are tightening, my chest is contracting, my belly is tightening and contracting. My mouth is dry, all the symptoms of fight or flight, really.
Yes.
And then reading your book, I thought that so many times while I was in the coffee shop. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was moving around, and it's so beautiful.
So amazing.
Yeah, because awareness is really all, it's the moment you read the word awareness, you become aware.
Yes.
Right in that moment.
When I asked you that,
right,
that's what it did, is it brought you into your body now. And that's the only time any change is ever going to happen.
Right.
All the energy we put into the past and future, that really gets our bodies in trouble. And so that's really been the focus of self-care, right? Self-care, I talk about, the first principle is that it should be the foundation to healthcare, because obviously without health you don't have self. But I've seen that it's just easy to get into you fix me. mode. And self-care is, I believe, that point gets lost because it's the hardest thing in the world to do. It really is. It is so much easier for me to care for all of the people at Motivate and my family, and it is. It's hard to stop and just even just letting go of that conversation you just had, right? How hard is that? So just checking in every now and then throughout the day, I think, makes a big difference, and that's where healing happens, is being present, and it's tough.
Why do you think it's so hard? Because I agree, and I hear that all the time from especially women. I guess that's because that's who I'm working with the most. Yeah. But why do you think it's so hard for us to slow down and to care for ourselves? Like, there's this huge resistance around it.
My goodness, I'm sure that's like an 8-week retreat, probably, right? And I don't even think I'm the person to even answer that. I think, when we talk about, like, the only way that I can really understand the body is through my experience and what I have seen work for people over and over and over again. And we're all in this journey of life, right? But we all take our own paths through it. So what causes you anxiety and depression and fear and anger, right? Those are like as I talk about in the book, that those are there for survival, but it's part of our human struggle, right? It is. It's what you can look at it many different ways. If on the spiritual level, you can look at it as, I don't know, sin, I guess. It's that constant struggle with fear and anger and self-doubt and anxiety, but they are survival skills, so they can be seen as positive things if they're used correctly. Like one quote by Dalai Lama, he talks about using the energy of anger and put it into something creative. So I'm not really answering your question. I guess it's just so individual for everybody as far as what triggers them. One common thing I say, and I don't know if I said it in the book, is that we're all born with an empty cup. And all of your life experiences, and your cup isn't even shaped the same or look the same as mine, right? And then all of your experiences will fill that cup, and how that cup flows over and how that affects you is going to be different than me, right? And so that's another reason I talk so much about. It's hard for us to understand what's going on in your body if we don't get our hands on you. So we don't really know where you could come in. All 50 people could have the same diagnosis, and the cause could all be very different. So, and again, it can come from experiences that happen, because adaptation is what has to happen to survive. Right. So physical adaptations happen, right? So if I'm not present right now, and I can feel myself like sinking deeper into this chair, right? If I'm not present, then just doing a little something like that now just changed all the pressure that's sitting down in my pelvis. It's now everything is locked. I can't really take good breaths here, so I'm locking in here. And I'm probably slightly nervous and a little anxious, and so now I'm chest breathing, right? And I'm just not present, so then I just shift and come back to it. I don't think it's something that necessarily, I think it's a really difficult thing to do. I think it's a very private, individual thing, and how that works for you. So at Motivate, we're always trying to help people find muscles that are really hard for them to find, right, that they have lost connection with. The pelvic floor is certainly one set of those muscles. And it's how you connect with your body, let alone your muscles, is so individual. And so
something you said in there, which I think it goes along with all of it, right, is well, one, I think that the simplicity of awareness and making that a habit throughout your entire day, every moment that you realize it, it's like, oh, I got lost. I went unconscious. I went on autopilot. Let me just come back. And in the book, there's a part where you say, like right now, check your jaw, right? Check your breath. Just check in with those things, your shoulders, whatever you said that were the specifics. But you said do that, and then you go, there you go. You just did it. It's that easy, right? You were just present for a moment.
Right.
And it is really that simple, maybe not easy if it's not your habit, but it's so simple once you start to do it. Then you're like, you start to feel that discomfort, or at least this is how I feel. And that's kind of like my trigger to come back.
Great.
To breathe
That's
deep.
wonderful. Yeah.
And to not go in breathing in the chest.
And that's what awareness throughout the day does. Eventually, you don't have to think about it as much, because that's what it is. It's not thinking. And I think that maybe answers your question too, is it's that thinking that just gets us in. We're just thinkers. We're thinkers constantly. And, working with my 15-year-old, just teenageness, let's just call it that, right? Talk about fear, depression, anxiety, all of those things, because now we've got hormones changing things as well.
Right.
And then menopause, that's reverse adolescence, so the hormones and all of that, but just the whole concept of that voice in your head isn't you. And that's a major aha moment, but she's going to find that on her own time. I don't know how many teenagers are able to hear that and really connect with it. But yeah, that voice telling you that she is saying all these things about you, it's not real. And that's just, that is us constantly grabbing onto our thoughts. And then, in occupational therapy and outpatient, those constant grabbing onto things and the physical responses that happen, the chemical responses that happen, right? Biologically, that can affect us, and how now how our organs are affected, and then that affects, how our social health, our mental health, our emotional, all of those things. It's all connected. So the more I think we realize that we're not our thoughts, that is when we can start to be present, I think. And it usually takes some kind of a breaking moment for us to even want that, to understand that we're missing that. Yeah. So that's the last part of not the last part, the current part of my journey, I guess, is then I got, in June of 2016, I was diagnosed with acute disseminate Lyme disease, and which means I had meningitis for at least 2 to 4 weeks before we caught it. I was really pushing through life. I will say that I self-cared, and I did. It took me 3 weeks to figure it out, and but I didn't stop, because I knew that something wasn't right. But so it was quite intense. It was central nervous system Lyme, which is not the norm. The norm is what's called Lyme arthralgia, which is joint pain. So this was, it attacked my nervous system and the nerves that are central to my body. And so it's been 3 years of just all this crazy stuff and trying to figure out how now to apply everything that working with pelvic pain and chronic illness and pain. Now I've become, I guess, someone that associates with chronic illness. And so I think that writing the book was part of the healing. I just kept getting knocked down every time I got back up again, and to get knocked down every time you get up, and to do that for 3 years, you really have to kind of relook at your life. And there are some things you can't change, so then you have to figure out how to adapt that way. So I think that part of the book was that. It was a healing process for me as well, that I'm still in the middle of. So.
Yeah, so I wondered, as I read that, and that your journey, you were already in occupational therapy, and you were already in this whole body health and self-care. Yeah. And how did your own experience then affect the way that you look at others? And I'm assuming, but you can elaborate, like what sense of compassion, empathy, perspective did it lend to you? Did you see it as a gift? Do you see it as a gift now?
Yeah. I think it took me a while to see it as a gift.
Yeah.
But yeah, within the first, I think, year and a half, I started to blog, and I was calling it The Joy of Lyme, because that's what I'm holding on to, and that's what I'm trying to do, is learn from the joyous things. And a great example is, I'll tell you that I'm a workaholic. I'm the kind of person who thrived before Lyme on energy, like excited, nervous energy. I think I was like that all the time. And that, all those different things that you said that I do, that's why, because I'm just, and I love to run and exercise and all those kinds of things. And then when Lyme knocked me down, it basically changed my nervous system. It altered my nervous system and how it handles that. So instead of those things being joyous, now they're stressful, and they burn me out quickly. Mm-hmm. So that really helped me understand. Obviously, yes, I feel that it's given me empathy, but I've always prided myself on being empathetic. So maybe that was the issue, is the higher power was saying, you have more to learn, which I do always, right? But I was a go-goer. I mean, I'm gone at 6 in the morning, and thankfully I have an amazing supportive husband who works from home. So, he would feed him and put him to bed. And
how many kids?
So then, 2. I have a teenage daughter and a 11-year-old son. So my son, when he was 6 weeks old, I had to go back to work. That was when my husband lost his job. So my husband ended up being the stay-at-home dad with him. So didn't have all that time that I had with my daughter. So Lyme happened in June. I got knocked down for 6 weeks. I was in severe pain through my head. So there's this particular couch that I would hang out in. And the first thing my son did was, on day 1 of summer, was build a fort right behind me. And and then we made like Nerf gun target shooting, things like that, where I could just sit, and that was amazing. Like, that was bonding time with my son that I never would have had otherwise, ever, So those are the kinds of things that, but it was also hiking with my son that I think I got Lyme. Funny.
Ironic.
Yeah. But I wouldn't give up that moment, because that was those are good memories. But yeah, so that was, and so then I thought, okay, that's the message I need to be getting, is that you need to slow down and figure out, work-life balance better. Mm-hmm. Went back to work, something else major happened, and then that was the start of, what chronic Lyme people go through, that it's not considered a valid thing. And so you're often told, it's in your head, and it's anxiety, which unfortunately has a stigma of being in your head, right? But the concept of mental health and neural health is not something that I think is well understood or discussed, but if your nervous system is altered, it's going to alter how your body, deals in life, and there needs to be support for that. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
most definitely,
because anxiety and fear and those kinds of things, stress, which is a positive thing that allows us to be amazing in life. That's where the creative energy comes from, and
mm-hmm.
it is that those are positive things. But if we're not ever aware of how it's affecting our body, then eventually, it might end us in a heart attack, or back pain, or it could, present itself in any number of ways.
Yeah.
Urinary incontinence.
So actually, you talked about this in the book, and I thought the analogy that you gave was so spot on. You talked about it like a little kid nagging at their mom, or like pulling on their mom's shirt, like, "Mommy," and you're like, "Hang on a second, Mommy, but I need you." It's like, just wait a second, right? And that's your body saying to you, "Hey, I need you.
Yeah.
Hey, slow down. Hey, feed me healthy, nutrient-dense foods. Give me water." All these things, and we just put it off until you hit your breaking point. Right. So can you talk to that a little bit? Because I think a lot of people ignore the whisper. They ignore the little pulling on the shirt of saying, "Hey, pay attention to me. Can you slow down, please? Right. Can you meditate?" Which
is why I have a job. Anybody that works with chronic pain, we tend to. I'm not doing the same thing as acute care, like you break your ankle and you go. We're dealing more with years of, I've been dealing with pain for 10 years, or, not something you just woke up with, or, so it's often an accumulation of ignoring those signals. And so they get louder and louder and louder. And so people don't come to me because they just got a whisper that maybe intercourse didn't feel the same, so, let me look into it. Or my big toe hurt yesterday, so let me look into it. It is slam, you can't go to work anymore. You're struggling through life. Maybe your partner, something happens, some major breaking point happens, typically to make you go to the doctor and say, I can't live like this anymore. So then by the time people come to us, they say, oh yeah, my shoulder hurts and this is what's happening with my function. And they'll often say that I woke up with it. One day I just woke up with it, and then you do the eye contact and you go, really? And when you start get people really getting into their bodies and start, our evaluations are really an hour long, because it is 45 minutes of just trying to pull out everything from your history, because all of those things, the surgery that you had here and the fall that you had there and the different medications that you're on and the fact that your son is in the middle of a divorce and living with you at home, and all of those things, can be internalized and can affect your body. Because not only that stress is affecting you mentally, you're also probably maybe not sleeping as well. Like our biological health really gets affected. You're probably not making as much time for self-care, so you're maybe doing the quick fast food thing, or the soda thing for the carb rush because you're exhausted, and then all of those things add up, and those habits especially affect your pelvic floor. That's what we find, where you're not drinking your water, you're not giving your body what it needs to, the basics of what it needs to survive. Where a lot of us are in that mode, in that go-go survival mode, and the body is amazing. It will adapt. It will. And
you called a superhero.
Yes, and at your age, it'll probably be good for a while. Once you start hitting 40s, 50s, and then the hormonal changes happen, which is where we see a lot of with pelvic floors, that there's changes due to the menopausal cycle of things from peri to post. Whenever change happens in the body, now the body has to adapt again. But maybe it's already adapted like this, and then something else happens. So now it adapts like this, and eventually pressures are going to change, and that's really what our posture and our beings are. They're containers, and that's especially this area. What we think of as our core is it's a regulated pressure system, and if that pressure system gets affected, right, things aren't flowing up and down because I'm sucking it in, or I'm schlumping or something. That's going to affect how things move. So not only your pelvic floor muscles, your abdominal muscles, your back muscles, all of the fascia that's connected to it on the inner layer, and then all of the organs. So if I have a little bit of scoliosis and I'm at my desk like this, and everybody talks to me from over there, you can imagine at some point that might affect things one way or another. Might affect some person, it might affect them within their back, and another person might affect them in their hip, and another person might affect them in their neck. Other people might not affect them at all. So I think the more that you're just able to connect, the more that you're able to control it. I think that's self-care at its finest. Mm-hmm. And it would stop us from doing a lot of that emergency care. Which is what we do. So often by the time we see people, they've been having, leakage or pain for 20 years. And, but I always congratulate them because they didn't give up. They're still looking. They're still trying, because what works today might not work tomorrow, and vice versa. So I think we need to look at all of those things, right? Like if something I'm saying resonates with you right now, it was your time to hear it, maybe. And so that's why, we just continue to read and learn and talk and find like-minded people and hang around like-minded people, because that's how we get inspired, because improving ourselves, and that's what I'm finding, self-love, right? I saw your workshop coming up. You have to have that before I think you really can really directly connect and change the external world, whatever that may mean for you. You learn to have to, you learn an acceptance. And so that's what's really helped in the clinic too, is we so badly as therapists want to fix people. We do. We get into this. Doctors, I think most medical professionals get into this because we want to save the world. We want to help people so badly. And we want to take away their pain. But it's not always about that. It's teaching them how to accept where they are, and that's where the magic can happen. Like I said, that's where change can really happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in the book you say this multiple times, that the goal is not perfection. And that oftentimes when people come into you and they have these goals, and maybe they're growing and they're achieving those small goals, they don't see it as any growth, because they're like, but I don't feel like I used to, or I don't feel perfect.
Right.
So and that can be physical health, that can be business related, it can be relational, like any aspect of life. It's so easy, and I find myself doing this too, is to look at things black or white. Yeah. To be like, I'm either awesome or I'm a complete loser. And a failure, right?
You know what? That's a voice in your head again.
Yeah.
So if I think it's a person I really respect once said, because we all know practice makes perfect, right? But practice makes permanent is what I really like. Mm-hmm. You have, that's where practicing, just checking in with your body. So for that one split nanosecond of life, you stopped connecting to your thoughts, which is not who you are. So just by doing that a little bit, then perfect doesn't exist in the here and now. You are just what you are. You can't change it. So I think, again, just checking in with your body and being present. I had recently put a post on, I think, Instagram saying that there's no such thing as good or bad posture if you're in the moment. Right? If you're aware of how your body feels right now, then that's it. That whole concept of perfection, I think it can get us in trouble. Mm-hmm. But we also want to compare ourselves to everybody else, right? Like in yoga, we always say, don't compare yourself to your neighbor. Just bring it on the mat and leave it on the mat. And so I think that's where our concept of perfection comes and where it can get us into trouble if we're using it. If I'm gauging you as perfect, and I want to be like you, I'm going to completely personify. I don't know you, no matter how well I know you.
Authenticity goes out the window.
Yeah, right. So I think that the concept of perfection just sets us up for failure. And that's exactly with the concept of let's make goals, let's keep looking at them. Any therapist who hears this will laugh because they know that then you have them fill out an assessment, a form, and then that's where it's nice, because then I can say, okay, look, your numbers have improved, and then they're able to go, oh yeah, well, I can sit at the dinner table now and not have to rush to the bathroom anymore, but I return to my normal. Like, that's what I wanted to return to. And so when we return to our normal, it's our normal, right? Doesn't mean that we're present in our normal,
right?
So,
or that we're appreciative of it.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. Is I think it's not until we lose that we appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, one of my internships was working in nursing homes, and OTs do a lot of amazing things in nursing homes. But we help them get out of bed, and I've seen do their whole morning routine. Them take an hour, to get out of bed, put their slippers on, go to the bathroom, wipe, brush their teeth, like all those little things to then, to then be done. And so an hour just how much work they put into that. And that's something that we don't even, and that definitely helped me be a little bit appreciative of what we take for granted, because that will be us someday, right? We just hope that we have surrounded ourselves with people that will help us age gracefully. But all of that is a reality, that we can end up in those kinds of situations. So yeah, being grateful is, I think, a really great place to start as far as being centered. You can just be grateful that you have breath, that you're here, that you're alive. Yes, you have pain, or you have things that are affecting your life, but you are doing something about it. And therein lies your power. So And that's all that I want for people to do when they find their resources in their medical team, that they feel supported in their journey for their health and wellness by being proactive. I mean, that should be something that medical professionals support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you talk about that a lot, which was so refreshing to hear, because, and I don't need to go into this too far, because there's so many other things I'd like to get to in this episode, but I think we're going to have to do another episode.
Sure, I'm open.
Okay, good. So in my experience, before I hit my breaking point, my personal breaking point, which I briefly explained to you, my listeners also know it from my past episodes, but I had so many digestive issues, hip and back related issues, and I went to so many different air quotes specialists. And again, in your book, you talk about it's not okay to bash doctors, right? Just because you want to have this whole body approach, and maybe just traditional medicine is not the way that you're going to go, maybe you're going to integrate all of it, it doesn't give you the right to bash someone who has gone to school, who really takes pride in their work, who's working really hard, and they have value to give, but maybe only in one small area, right?
Or not the area that is of your need.
Exactly. Right. And I've noticed with myself, with my own experience, that I came to a point where the people I was going to, because there weren't a lot of whole body options, at least, that I knew of,
right.
8 years ago, 7 years ago. And so I wasn't receiving any real solutions. I wasn't receiving any real guidance. And I felt really lost, really alone. And I felt also confused around what I think many people have, which is that idea you mentioned earlier, is you go to the doctor and they fix you, and it's out of your control, right? You put it in their control. You think because they have this degree or this title that they have all the answers.
Right.
And then that leaves us without empowerment, right?
Right. And that's a crazy expectation for us to think that this one person knows everything and is going to fix me. And then when they don't, to blame them and then live with that, rather than just I think we always can find a tidbit to learn from every encounter that we have, even if it's, I'm going to, look for a doctor in a different way, maybe. But I think it's just like anything else, right? You pick up a book, it looks good. I'm going to read it for a while, and I get bored. I can't, and it's not for me right now. And then you pick up a different book, and you read that, and then that's good. And then this book, maybe you come back to 10 years later. Again, it's the information that you need. And there are certainly, I guess just like there are good and bad anything.
They're humans, right?
They're humans, and we have good and bad days. Yeah. And unfortunately, it is getting the medical system and the healthcare system, insurance and all of that is getting harder and harder. It really is, to be present with the patient, to have the time to be present. And so it is something that is, maybe it's another reason why it's so close to my heart, is that that's what we need to do. We need to be able to, and that's what's so great about an outpatient setting, is that you do get that one-on-one time for a longer period of time, and then that helps us understand what's going on with your body a little bit more, and then that helps us maybe communicate with the doctor. And so the really great healthy relationships we have with the doctors in town are those doctors that really want that kind of information as well, and they want to hear. They want an empowered patient. They want to know what healthy habits are supporting you and what aren't. And for you to go in there and be able to say that in a way that is respectful of their area of expertise, and to to go in with goals, I think, is always a good thing. This is what I want to learn today. And if they don't have it, then they should be able to at least give you a direction, right, as far as how to seek it. Right. So I love that. I think referring. Yeah, I think referring. We need to, if doctors that refer you to other people is a positive thing, because they want to help you learn and grow in a team approach. And I think that really is the best way to approach health and wellness. Yeah. Whether it's with your friends and just being healthy and doing healthy things and living your life and in a wonderfully uninterrupted, joyous way until something happens. And then, you have those people and those resources as well. But then hopefully, meanwhile, you've developed a positive relationship with somebody. And communities like this too, I think, is helpful, because then you have resources, and that's obviously social media is one of the great benefits of social media. Somebody can put out there, but you have to ask. And I've noticed, like on Facebook, they ask for a plumber and a videographer and things like that, but you don't see very often like a good doctor, because I think self-care again is something, it's private,
right?
And I don't know, I think sometimes putting it out there can be seen as weakness, right? I need help. But we all need help. We all need to be supported. And yeah, that's one thing that disease will do is it teaches you a lot about humanity and being human. And then you just learn how to go through the human struggle the best that you can in ways that will benefit the world when you're on. I think if you can do that, and I think just by trying to be true to who you are and finding what your passion is and doing that, and awareness will allow you to know if you're on that, if you're staying on the right path that was meant for you. Then I think that's what true health is. That's healing. And I think that there's always things for us to heal. Unfortunately, obviously, with pelvic floor, we see a lot of survivors. And it's often 20, 30 years later, they feel like they've gone through psychotherapy. They feel very at peace with it, but their muscles don't necessarily agree. So that's another thing that we really see. I'm board certified in biofeedback too. That's another amazing thing. It measures the electrical activity of the muscles, and you can see if I reach towards a person who maybe their brain associates, having intercourse is always painful. I would just reach towards their shoulder, and you can see their activity will go up, and they won't feel it. They won't be aware of it.
That's fascinating.
So it's that protective system that, talking about in the book, that our central nervous system, our parasympathetic and sympathetic, our fight and flight, and our rest and digest, it's amazing. Our bodies will always figure out how to survive and adapt. And so we just have to make sure that we're staying in touch with our bodies so that we can do it gracefully, I guess, in a way that feels harmonious with our lives, so that we can have the quality of life that we want, that we can have a purpose, a role, be independent in our roles, whether it is, like, that's your occupation, right? Occupational therapy, the term occupation is what your roles are in life. You're a blogger and an artist and a writer, but you're also, a girlfriend, a hiker, a chef, all those other things, right? And when any of those roles get out of place, your purpose is now affected. And so that's where that reevaluating always is good. Because it's obviously the biggest way that we go to therapy is if it's now affecting your occupation as a way to make an income anymore, and that knocks us down. And now we'll start paying attention to our bodies, but we don't. I just think it makes sense to try not to go that route. If you're feeling pain, or if you're noticing that your gut is not acting like it used to, that's another positive of being a benefit of being present, is now you know what your norms are, right? Your norms aren't anybody else's norms. Your norms are your norms. Nobody knows what your norms are as well as you do. And so, like, doing the breast exams, they don't necessarily even encourage those anymore, but it's awesome to do so that you know what your breast tissue feels like, so that one day you can compare it. Is it still feeling normal? So it's the same thing. Like, when I take a breath, how does it feel? When I sit at my computer, how does it feel? All those different things, so that when it doesn't feel normal anymore, now you know. And you can react accordingly.
You talk about this in the book. It reminds me of the area where you likened it to the elimination diet, where you don't really know maybe how something is affecting you until you eliminate it, and then you come back to it, right?
Yeah.
And I loved what you talked about, because it's like something you almost can't explain to someone when you start to feel healthy, like actually healthy.
Right.
it's like this feeling that you never want to turn back.
Right.
And then when you do, and you say, for instance, I don't eat gluten. So at first it was like, I don't eat gluten, but okay, it's been a few weeks, I'll just go back to it. And then it's like, no, I don't eat gluten. Like, I don't ever want to feel like that. I want to stay feeling awesome.
Right. And how did I feel like that for the past 5 years?
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Yeah, so just being open to change is this very scary thing, but it's quite amazing. And it's the same thing with drinking water. People are like, I don't like the taste of water, or I'm not thirsty, right? We feel that a lot. And there is research out there to say that we often are thirsty way before we feel it, or by the time we feel thirsty, we're actually dehydrated. But that whole... I think I lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
Right. Talking about basically feeling something, right? And then not wanting to go back because you felt so awesome.
Right, yes. So the habits of, often people will come in where they have, 14 cups of coffee, or
whoa.
Yeah, or soda, or living. And so often people will do that for a variety of reasons. Right. And then, and so it's scary. And so we say, okay, rather than going, well, you need to drink your 60 ounces of water and just get rid of that. There's a lot of education behind that. It irritates the bladder. It can, it is a diuretic. It can dehydrate you more. Just different things like that that can affect your bowel and bladder health. Which, once that's affected, talk about quality of life being changed. Once you just start getting rid of, like, a little bit, decreasing that coffee a little bit, or
baby
steps.
Talk
about breathing when... for people who have to feel like they pee all the time, just breathing, it is amazing, but you don't know what you don't know, right? So being open to just trying one little thing can really be amazing. Like just cutting out gluten. It's terrifying to do that. It really is. It's terrifying to make those changes. But making a little change, like, drinking a little bit more water, or being aware of how much fiber you're taking in, or even just being aware of what your bowel habits are. Those kinds of things too. And if you're like, right away. When I mentioned bowel, you knew right away. Oh, they're normal. I go every day. Like I'm a morning pooper. And other people are like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to talk about it. Those are the people that that's tough, because we can go into the enteric nervous system. The gut has its own brain. They're finding more and more information to show that neurologically it's so complicated there. So gut health, I think, it's definitely a huge thing. So making those little changes, which are not little. I know they're not little. They're scary. But it's a commitment to self-care. That is, you're like, I'm going to do this for myself today. And it can be start your day with a smile and say thank you out loud. Or it can be, I'm going to fill this thing of water up, maybe not your big old jug, but like a 20-ounce bottle of water. I'm going to fill it up, and I'm going to commit to sipping it throughout the day, and I'll see where I got at the end of the day. Things like that can be really powerful, because once you feel good, then you just want to keep feeling good, and that usually is the motivation to keep going, right? Same thing, that walking into that gym or whatever, yoga mat, or going for that run that first time, it's awful. I know it's awful. I remember, right? And then you do it, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. It's the same thing. Whenever because your body is craving that. It's been craving that movement. It's been wanting you to move. It's what we were meant to do. So just offsetting that, and we're becoming more and more sedentary. So when you move, no matter what that is for you, it could be just dancing in your kitchen. Yeah. That's fine. I think you actually had a thing where you're dancing, right? Yeah. It's jumping on a trampoline. Yeah. Which you should be able to do without the fear of leakage. But those little things, gosh, they add up. We know that they add up. Yeah. You feel good sitting on the couch at the end of the night. You're like, I did something good for myself today. Yeah. In the book, you say, just keep swimming. Yeah. I love that. Yes. I love that. We're a Pixar family. Yeah, just keep swimming. And he's freaking out through the whole thing. He's that guy, the dad, Nemo's dad. Yeah. He was anxiety, right, through the whole movie. I just love that movie. And she was clueless and happy. She was present, right? Right.
She didn't know how else to be.
Yes, she was just in the now, very much she was. So that was the message she was giving him, that it'll all be good.
Yeah, and I love that. I actually used that phrase in my painting class last night, because although in a different sense, it wasn't physical movement, when you get stuck in anything, there's that feeling of, okay, I want to stop, or I want to contract. I used to go and curl up in bed in a fetal position and cry. And now it's like, no, I have this energy, I need to move it. I need to just keep swimming, right? So you keep moving forward.
And that's what you needed. You needed that good cry in fetal position. There is nothing wrong with that, Like, if we just stop judging ourselves, just do, I think, but that's the biggest thing. And that's I think, when we talk about self-love and acceptance, is that concept of just stop judging ourselves. But that's really hard to do.
It is.
But again, not getting wrapped up in our thoughts and being present, I think, is the best way to do that, because we're really all on this journey together. And so the more we talk about it, and obviously that's another huge, wonderful benefit of the clinic, is that you can see people come through the other side, and they see through testimonials and read that other people have been there, and really without hope, because often, with chronic pain, they have been everywhere else. With pelvic pain, the statistics are a patient might see an average of 20 different physicians before they get help. Wow. So they feel hopeless, and it's that hopelessness that often motivates us. But you can see that chip on their shoulder, almost like, go ahead and tell me I'm crazy. Right. And it's all those little things that, now that I have gone through it, or am through it, it obviously, I guess I just understand it at a deeper level of how it truly does affect their quality of life. I think I always knew it, but now I'm living it with them, so maybe the concept of checking in and being more present is something that I'm more into now than I was, out of necessity.
Yeah. I love it. As we get closer to wrapping up, even though I feel like it's only been 5 minutes, well, one thing I want to talk about that I think is really important, and I think maybe people are listening and they're like, okay, great, self-care. I know I should be doing this. I should be drinking more water. The list could go on, right? You listed all these things, from small to large things. But there's this section of the book that you talk about the difference between an excuse and a reason. Right. And then you give an exercise of how they can write down all of their reasons/excuses, and they can identify which ones they're in control of and how to actually move through that, instead of holding on to an excuse which says, I don't have enough time, which I think is a great example. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. It's kind of funny, because it's a kind of a big part of the book. There were so many excuses, and I could have come up with more, because I know them, I live them, and I hear them, have heard them. So yeah, the second principle is, so self-care being the foundation of healthcare, and then what's holding you back from self-care. So that is obviously, if that's the only thing that you get out of the book, I think that's a huge gem. What is holding you back from whatever, whether it's feeling whole in your body or doing what you want to do, or whatever it may be. And excuses are defined as you're putting the blame on other people. It's somebody else's or something else's issue. And so that's an easy thing to just let go of. Okay, fine, it's not my fault, not my thing. Somebody else is either in charge of it or whatever, or it wasn't me. We hear that a lot, right? And then the reason is more that everybody involved is in agreement. And so I talk about the difference between, for me personally, that's the only way I can really truly explain to you the difference, is that, I could say I have Lyme and I have reasons to just curl up in a ball, right? Anybody with severe pain or, GI issues, they have every right to curl up in a ball and blame it on on my whatever circumstances. And I think that can be the easier route at times, but it doesn't do anything to help improve anything, right? So what are your reasons to get out of bed, I think is what we need to focus on. And what are your reasons to go to the doctor? Or what are your reasons to change? Or what are your reasons to just be present and enjoy life? If we can focus on reasons, that's a much more creative way than excuses. It's, I guess, like the same thing as looking at stress positively or negatively. You can choose to see it as a way to grow and learn, and check in, because we know that stress can affect us. But I think we can choose how it affects us based on self-care, and being present and accountable. And that's really what the crux of that is what is holding you back. And if you can be accountable for your actions and for your, whatever it is, your self-care, whatever your self-care journey means at this moment, that's what it is. It's accountability. Yes, I have Lyme, and I have reasons even why I struggle to do whatever. But my passion and my purpose is this. So, call it soul, call it spirit, call it positive energy outweighing the negative energy. The reasons are what we have to hold on to. My son building that tent behind me and sending a very loud message of what he needed. There's a reason for me to fight, to keep fighting. And that's everybody's on their own journey in that, and I understand that struggle now. Mm-hmm. And like we talked about earlier, we can just let it take us down, or we can help allow it to build us up. And I think every experience, that's what fills that cup. And if we can learn to adjust things and how they fit in our cup and pay attention to how they are entering our cup, it might affect how things flow over eventually. We're going to get blindsided by things in our health. People who are extremely healthy and do everything right still might die of cancer. We know that. I went into Lyme extremely healthy. So I feel that helped me come out of it. I could have. There's plenty of Lyme survivors out there that are in wheelchairs, and so I have lots of reasons. Doesn't mean I don't use excuses ever. But yeah, writing down your excuses as to, like if you're doing a New Year's resolution of whatever, it's typical weight loss, what held you back last year? Like if we're constantly going on this wheel of weight loss, and what is holding you back is a great place to start, I think. And so these are all my excuses, and a lot of them could be valid. I'm a single parent. I think I talk about single parenting, not having support for your children, those kinds of things. But then you learn to do yoga on the floor while they're crawling over you. Yeah. You figure out what you want to fight for. Yeah. You figure out what you want to fight for, and no one else is going to fight for you like you can fight for you. So, and then I think that's just heightened my sense of purpose. The more that I'm fighting for myself, the more I want to fight for people that enter my doors. And that's my passion. I've dedicated my career to trying to help people improve their lives, not be in pain, and have a high quality of life. That's everybody's God-given right, I believe, to have a purpose, to be happy. And it's just solidified in me how important that is, and it's just increased my drive to, and I feel like it really has solidified that this is what I'm meant to do. And for whatever reason, I had to experience it to hopefully get better at helping people understand it. Mm-hmm. We all struggle. But yeah, it's not about being perfect, because we talk about posture and alignment, and that's really important for a variety of things. But it makes us want to be perfect, and then we tend to go rigid. But yeah, just being open to change and being open to awareness in your own body, I guess is really the only message that we need to hear to start. But it does. It can open a whole can of worms for people. So that's where having support is important. And that is tough when, I don't have time. So yes, you have to make time. You have to make yourself a priority. And it's funny because when you go to therapy, you are making yourself a priority because it's time and money. But if you don't continue to do the stuff that is recommended, right, which is self-care, and a big reason I wrote the book is you got to do your stuff. Whatever that means, you have to show up, right? You have to either show up for yourself, you got to show up at the appointment, you have to, you got to show up first. And then you got to do this stuff, make the change and see how it feels in your body. And then the minute you learn that, you end up your tool bag ends up getting really big, because then you not only now do you have a resource to help understand where you are right now, but also how it feels when you do certain things. So now you can modify your life that way as well. To find the right exercise for you, those kinds of things. Yeah. But you have to do them. Yeah, you have to show up and do them. And so change is an acronym for consistency, right? So consistent, healthy awareness, now grow empowerment. So the consistency part, the consistent, healthy choices based on your now are mantra at Motivate is change starts here. Like when I asked you what you felt like in your body, I had to bring you here in the now. That's when change happens. And so change can only happen, positive change that you have an influence over, can only happen if you are being consistent. If you consistently drink that water, how do you feel? And then go back and drink your soda for a week and notice the difference. It's quite amazing. And then your tolerance for things changes. And again, life is a journey on several planes, right? Your body is always changing. And even as, there's a breakdown happening in the body when with the aging process, whether it's menopause or the change in your height because of the degeneration that can happen in your spine, all of those things, you can still affect how it affects you based on understanding that you have control, that awareness is a beautiful thing, and that your body's always giving you signals. If you just listen to the signals now versus, and I think, pain, unfortunately, is something, this begs back to what you were talking about earlier, that it's like, I don't know where we were taught, I guess back in the pioneer days when they really had to, no pain, no gain, and push down the emotions. I don't know. I don't know where we learned that to ignore and endure is powerful. That's what pain is. It's something to be ignored and endured, not something to be heeded and listened to, let alone every other signal in the body, whether it's hunger or thirst. So somewhere we learn that I think that's weakness. I don't know. Along the lines of asking for help, those kinds of things too, because they go hand in hand, right? Yeah. So I don't know why, and some of us weren't raised that way. But I think culturally, I'm sure those values get passed down. But does that value have truth for you? Right. Like not going to the doctor ever, right? But also when you go to the doctor, you'll know what to expect as far as they're limited to their resources and what they have to offer you, just like we are. So I don't know if I think that's the end of that. I don't have anywhere else to go with that other than, communicating with your doctor. Because when you go to the doctor, then obviously basically what your medications are going to be presented to you, and then doing further diagnostic testing, and then figure out where, whether it's surgery, injections, or medications are part of that. So my stance is, that's wonderful to go and have that conversation with the doctor, but natural conservative care should be where we start first. That's my opinion. If it's, again, because it all comes back to that quality of life. And that's what I believe a good medical professional will do is it affecting your quality of life? Yes or no, and how much is it affecting it? And if it's to the point where it is, but I'm tolerating it at this point, natural conservative care is a great time to enter it. If it's to the point where I can't get out of bed and I'm not functioning, then obviously looking further into those other options. But I am just really trying to encourage people to try not to get to that point. Yeah, have the conversation, and when you're in your body, you'll feel that. Natural conservative care is the natural route, right? Just checking in and being present in your body and listening to the signals. So now that I have pain, I've had pain for the past 3 weeks. I didn't ignore it and get to the point where by the time I got to the hospital, my pulse was in the 30s, and it was a life or death situation. And I was completely unaware. I was running at 4:30 in the morning. I was working 12-hour days, just pushing through it, surviving. My body was amazing, and that it allowed me to do that. And your body will allow you to do that. It will. Right. It's amazing. It is. So there's just no time like the present, right? Who said that? That was brilliant.
Yeah. And I think so many people listening, what I hope, if anything, they receive from this is just that reminder to start listening now and to, like you said, be proactive.
Right.
And that's wherever they're at. If they check in and that's, wow, I really need to go see a professional, then go.
Right.
If that's just, oh, wow, I really need to drink more water, then start there.
Right.
So before I ask my last question, to wrap this up, although, like I said, I know we're going to have to continue this somehow, whether that's, one, I think you should start your own podcast. More videos on Facebook, but maybe another podcast together.
Yes.
For sure, you have so much to offer. And I know a couple women in my community on Facebook have already ordered the book, so they can enjoy it too.
Yes.
Yeah. So before I ask my last question, where can people find you if they want to look into you further, read your book, all that good stuff?
So motivatetherapy.com is my website. And so my email is dnichols@motivatetherapy.com. So D as in Denise, and then Nichols, Nichols.
And that's all on the website too, right?
Yes. Yes. Well, you can contact us through there, and you can order the book through there as well. And then we have our Facebook page is under Motivate Personal Physical Rehabilitation. And then we have an Instagram as well. So those are all ways you can contact me or learn more. We do offer free 15-minute consultations with any therapist, any licensed therapist. If you want to just come and talk for free about whatever is going on, and then we'll let you know if we can or can't help you, and hopefully help guide you in the right direction.
Awesome.
So there's that. I offer workshops, one a month for low back pain and sciatica. So that's actually tonight, although I'm not sure if the weather's going to affect that or not, but it's at 6 o'clock. And then managing menopause. So learning about all of the things you thought you didn't have control over that you do with menopause. That is this Saturday at 10, and they're every month. So you can look for those on our Facebook or website.
Great.
Yep.
I will link all of that for everybody, and I'll link the Amazon. Is that the best place for them to buy the book? Is Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon. If you want the ebook, you could that, or you could order the paperback. But we do have the paperback at Motivate as well.
Okay, so if they're in the Rockford area, they can just stop in and get it there.
Right. Yep.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so my last question is kind of a two-part question. Going into, it's kind of still the new year, right? It's January.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
It's new.
We still have lots of time.
Yeah. So going into this year, what is one thing that you'd like to do more of, and what is one thing that you are wanting to come clean of?
Nice. My mantra, or I guess my mantra for this year, first is a resolution. I don't need to set myself up for failure, is listen and learn. So I'm a talker, as you could probably tell, and trying to talk less, it's really hard for me. And because being grounded, right? So listening, I talk in the book about you have to hear first to truly listen. So that is something I want to do more of, and it's a struggle, but I'm going to keep trying, because that is where true learning and growth, I believe, happens, because we have so much to learn from everybody. And then from there, do action and then let go. So I definitely want to learn how to let go better, of everything, right? Those excuses. If we're not using them, then we're sucking them up inside somewhere. But yeah, so learning to let go. It's a really powerful thing and to do, but it comes and goes in small increments, and that's okay. So, how about you? Anybody ask you that question?
Oh, good question. No, nobody turns it around on me. What do I want to do more of? Well, you kind of mentioned this, but I would say specifically dance, but really play. And it goes hand in hand with yours. Let go, right? Stop taking myself so seriously.
Love it.
Relax.
And I love to dance. I went to the Wild Woman Retreat, Women's Space. They have a good one. Anyway, and so we did a dancing chakra thing. I think it was kind of crazy and freeing and amazing. So then I took that home and I just started dancing. And that was my movement breaks for the book, was just turning on music and dancing.
It's the best.
It's so fun. It's very freeing.
Fun. Yeah.
Again, to do something without a purpose, just for the sake of doing something. Yeah. Right. That's different than going to the gym and running on a treadmill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the essence of play.
I love it.
Just do it for fun.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do more of and do less of is. I'm not really sure what I'd like to do less of. Maybe less forcing and less rushing.
I like that.
So I feel like oftentimes I need to respond to something right away or plan something the moment I have the idea, and oftentimes that leads me to doing something I shouldn't, or doing something sooner than I should, or saying something that I didn't necessarily want to say. So yeah, less of that.
I love it. Yeah, that does go along with the letting go too, and is allow. I love the idea of just allow, and that
was in here too, right?
That's where the breath is possible. Yeah, with the breath. That's where the allowing comes in. When you're in the constant state, the thinking state, your body is going with you. And then the minute you stop to breathe, then you're just allowing your body to just be. And that's what it needs every now and then. Like your car can't always run idle constantly, right? It will break down eventually. So it needs to be driven, it needs to be turned off, and we know that. And it needs to go for checkups, and we know that. So it really is the same for our body, right? So the force resistance, which is the essence of really our working out, our exercise, is to force through the pain and to resist, and it's not a bad thing as long as we're paying attention to if that is what our body needs and if that's what it's responding to positively,
right?
And it does, but balancing, and I do talk about that in the book too, is we have to have a balanced approach to strength. That you gotta give those muscles a break, give them a chance to elongate, give your body a chance to move out of wherever you are.
Yep.
The majority of your day.
Yep. All right, well, this is where we've got to wrap it up, but you guys, you have to go get the book, Your Self-Care Matrix by Denise Nichols. I will link it so you guys can go order it. And if you're in the Rockford area, go check her out at Motivate Therapy.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. See you guys next time. Okay.